Jackson, I tried calling the Reverend 3 times. He didn't answer.
Okay, well, just keep trying. By the United States was approved with
Okay.
15 votes in favor and 2 abstentions from
Thank
Russia
you,
and China.
thank you.
The resolution
And when I'm
authorizes
on
the
with him,
courts
if you
to
don't
appoint
mind,
1
please
year with a
put him
review after
on
9 months.
mute.
It would mark the first time
Okay.
a force has been deployed.
Put him on mute or?
I'm sorry, put me on mute.
Oh, okay. Just double checking.
Okay, no, you need to double check because I misspeak. And catch me when I'm incorrect.
It's okay. It's early.
No, just catch me. I don't have a problem with it. If I'm wrong, tell me, please.
Will do.
Thank you.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now,
Okay, Facebook Live sounds good.
Okay, very good. Now what we need is to
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, increasing cloud cover and a low near 68. By Wednesday, a chance for showers and storms.
Okay,
here
we
late
need,
with
we need
cloudy
to
skies, a high
get
around
him up.
82. Thursday, chance for showers and thunderstorms. A high of 60.
Okay, I'll try calling him one more time.
Chance for rain, a high
Okay,
of
well, let's just keep
62.
trying him until we get
That's
up.
your
'Cause he's
latest Chicago
typically
weather
quite
update.
prompt.
Currently, it's
Right. Okay, I'll keep trying.
Okay,
This
thank
is
you
Ron
so
Whittingham,
much.
and I'm co-owner of Megan Financial, an independent retirement and financial services firm here in Chicago. We've built our business on playing the long game, teaching financial literacy to our clients to prepare them for a great future and a dignified retirement. Investments, pensions, 401ks, they're all pretty complicated. We make sure that you understand it all. Give us a call at 708-444-1090. We're Megan Financial, and we're your partners in a happier retirement. Or visit us at megent.com.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors LLC, member of FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer and a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this broadcast are general in nature and provided for informational use only. The views are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisors LLC. They should not be considered a specific investment or tax advice. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Keep in mind that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Investment decisions should be based upon an individual's own goal, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Consult your investment and/or tax professional regarding your unique situation.
Longevity. The word has carried great meaning over time. Longevity of family, your bloodline. Longevity of finances, of health, spiritual longevity, and the afterlife. But what about the longevity of your smile? Are you tired of people asking you why you never smile? Is that the memory you want others to carry in history? A smile can last longer than any car, any vacation, and even Botox. This is Dr. Anna Pellick from Total Dentistry in Streamwood and Palatine. Our goal at Total Dentistry is to give you a lifetime of smiling. So next time you think, oh, I can skip my cleaning, it's just a cleaning. It's not. It's a building block to your ageless smile. Next time you think, oh, I can live with the pain longer, think twice. Is this the right choice for your lifelong smile? So visit our team of experts and come smile with us. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other. Call 847-358-2477 or visit totaldentistry.org.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Hi, I'm Ravina. I'm 7 years old and I'm blind. I love gymnastics, piano, public speaking, and riding on the trail bike with my dad. You can help me live the life I want.
Help Ravina and other blind people by making a tax-deductible donation of your used car, truck, or almost anything with wheels to the National Federation of the Blind. Your donation will help ensure a brighter future for blind children and adults. Just call 855-659-9314. That's 855-659-9314. Or visit carshelpingtheblind.org. That's carshelpingtheblind.org. We will arrange
Hey,
to
everybody.
have the
How you
donated vehicle picked
doing?
up
We're going
and
to talk
provide you
about
with a tax-deductible
the
receipt.
truck trial.
And if you know
Yes.
someone who is blind that can use
It
our
is
help,
interesting.
email
You know what I
NFB
found interesting
at
about it, you guys?
NFB.org.
Blindness does not hold me back at all.
You know me, I just call balls and
today.
strikes, even as I have my opinions.
What is your healing power? Maybe your healing
know,
power is helping
Still no answer.
PTSD,
Okay, let's just
traumatic brain injuries,
try again.
depression, anxiety, or loneliness.
All
Is
we
your
can do
healing
is
power a
try.
simple, heartfelt letter or being a volunteer, it is estimated that over 500,000 current warfighters will return from service diagnosed with PTSD, and 22 veterans will commit suicide every day. Our veterans have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
Someone just
At
called me.
healvets.org,
Oh, that was you.
you can find out more about the healing power of pen pals, volunteers, therapy kits, and more. Discover your healing power at healvets.org. Help Heal Veterans, together with you, has been helping one recovering veteran at a time. We are helping veterans heal together. What is your healing power? To find out about your power, visit healvets.org. This PSA is sponsored by Help Heal Veterans.
When a child is diagnosed with cancer, the last thing parents should have
1
to
minute.
worry about is how
All
to pay
right.
for it. This is a St. Jude moment.
Calvin got diagnosed
Okay, you
June
can
10th
try
of
him,
2018.
I guess
he
up
has
until I
rhabdomyosarcoma,
pitch to
a soft tissue
that.
cancer. One oncologist told us if it was my son, we'd go to St. Jude. And within 24 hours, we were on a plane headed here. It's hard to fathom what St. Jude has done for us. They've really given our family hope. For the donors out there,
30 seconds.
amazing. I never thought we would be in this place.
And so when
And it's people like
Dr.
you
Knighton
that
comes on,
help us and help
Yes.
provide for a family
mute
like
me.
ours.
Okay.
and tell
It
her,
is
just tell
the
her that I'm
gold
going
at
to be
the end of
running
a
things off, so
rainbow.
because I know
And we are
the
so
sound is
grateful and
distracting to
thankful
her.
for everything.
Okay.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at St. Jude.
10 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Stand by.
Facts
Thank
matter.
you. Let's have a great show.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Can you believe the autumn is already here? The fall is here. I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know what? I think until the weekend, we're going to be wearing these summer clothes. But even then, you just don't know. The weather's so strange. I'm Santita Jackson coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars, Robert Williams and Andre Parker. And so many of my morning stars, Kenneth Rush, Barbara Wright, Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia. I love you, Shirley. Oh my goodness, Barbara Bacon from out there in Oak Park, and so many of you, my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Let's talk about the Trump trial. We're going to have several, but when we look at how we value the valuations on real estate, they are relative. They are not fixed. It's very interesting. I wonder if the judge who judged, who said that Mar-a-Lago was only worth $18 million, does he have expertise in real estate? I'm only asking this because we found there are studies that show that Black and Latino homeowners have their homes constantly devalued. And then gentrification takes place. White families are able to come in, buy their homes on the cheap, and then the properties are able to skyrocket again. It's all relative, right? I mean, a white family, a Black family, this was a New York Times article a few months ago. A Black family had their home valued when the speculator came in. And they said, okay, it's $470,000. But when a white family took their place, it was their experiment. Their home was adjusted in value to $750,000. $750,000. So what is really going on here? I mean, look, I'm no apologist for anyone, but I think this is an opportunity for us to look at the system itself and the graft in it. Yeah, that's what we need to do. What is going on in the system? Because the system itself, it's rigged. It is not fair. Because guess what? I wish a Black billionaire would walk up into Forbes and say, I deserve to be on the Forbes 400 list. Don't you think they cut them open and perform surgery to find out where all of their money is and where it came from? So it's all this is a shell game, everybody, as far as I'm seeing. And so I want to hear from you. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. I mean, I'm looking past former President Trump, and I'm looking at how we get hurt in the game, how Black and Latino homeowners have their homes consistently devalued unless you have a white friend who steps in and pretend to be the homeowner of your home. What's up with that? What does that mean for Black and brown wealth? And Mar-a-Lago, which is a property of substantial history. How do you decide that it's worth maybe $24 million? Are you kidding me? Tommy Hilfiger just sold a home that does not have the history in Palm Beach for $41 million. So is he fraudulent for having sold his home for $41 million? Because I know his home is neither as big, nor as opulent, nor as historical as Mar-a-Lago. This is about finding the graft in the system and how it impacts us. I'm getting past all these people because you know what, all at the end of the day, they're all going to be fine. But what about us? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Let's get to some of the headlines today. And of course, John Nichols will be on. What is John going to talk about? The Biden impeachment, which was a mess last week. People were wondering, why do we even come up with this? This is sounding really crazy, but we'll see. But it really looked like a mess last week. Let's get to some of these headlines, everybody. The House Speaker is facing an historic attempt to be removed. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, who is also looking at a gubernatorial run in Florida, filed a motion yesterday to oust Kevin McCarthy, the Republican from California, for passing a bill with Democratic votes to avert a government shutdown. This serious effort to remove the speaker is unprecedented. We've not seen this in modern times. If it is successful, it could throw the House into chaos. They've been able to take care of about 70% of their business. But if this happens, what is going to happen? Who would they put forth as speaker? McCarthy will have to find Democratic support to keep his role. What will that mean? What will that mean for leader Hakeem Jeffries' role? What kind of leverage will he have? This is going to be fascinating. Donald Trump's fraud trial in New York is underway. The former president appeared in court for his civil trial in a $250 million lawsuit alleging rampant fraud at his business properties in the state. The trial could last for nearly 3 months. Trump doesn't face prison time in this case, according to this Washington Post report, but he could lose his New York properties, including Trump Tower. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's trial begins today. Allegedly, he offered former President Trump $5 billion not to run for president. Wow. He is accused of defrauding customers and investors out of billions of dollars. His cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsed last year. This trial could last up to 6 weeks. And thankfully, Charlotte Sana's family, they are thanking God today. This 9-year-old girl who went missing in upstate New York when her family were vacationing, when they were camping. She was reported missing Saturday during their camping trip. A 2-day search ensued. Fortunately, she was found unharmed. The man suspected in her disappearance is in police custody. He was tracked down after leaving a ransom note at the girl's house. And guess what? They found her in a cabinet in his trailer home, which is behind his mother's home. Unbelievable. Life expectancy in the United States has been declining since 2014. The American diet, healthcare system, and poverty have contributed to an epidemic of chronic illness, according to this post-examination. Cannot wait to talk to Dr. Shanina Knighton about that. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 83 degrees. It will be sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 84 degrees, mostly cloudy. In Major League Baseball, the season is over, but wow, the postseason has begun. The Twins, congratulations to you. First in the American League Central. The playoffs begin today. Their wild card series against the Blue Jays begins this afternoon. Congratulations to you. And congratulations to the Cubs, finishing second in the National League Central. And the White Sox, better luck next year, fourth in the American League Central. In the NFL, the Seahawks 24, the New York Giants 3, and the WNBA championships will have to wait until October 8th my father's birthday, for the liberty to face off against the sun. And those are the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Pastor Stephen Thurston, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing amazing, Santita. Good to hear your voice.
Oh, it is wonderful hearing your voice. Wow, wow, wow. There is so much going on. I don't know where to begin, but you know what? On Christ, the solid rock I stand. That's all I can tell you right now.
That's all we can go back to.
Oh, my goodness. And, and whatever your belief system, everybody is, I hope you are grounded in something that is greater than yourself, and not just something, the God in the universe, the God of the universe, really. I hope so, because I'm going to tell you, every day I wake up, it's something new.
Yes.
Something new.
It's never ending.
And you're going to be on Facebook this Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, yes?
Yes, that is correct. We're going to be in the relationship realm. And if you want to catch it, Stephen Thurston is my name on Facebook. That's Stephen with the PH. Santita, I did a piece last week on sex with friends and friends with benefits that really took off. And so the people asked me to continue in that realm. And so I'm going to be dealing with spiritual sexuality on this upcoming Friday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, talk to me, and you'll be, of course, you are New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. This is a pulpit your family have held for nearly 100 years. Unbelievable, unbelievable. And so we can catch you there on Sunday.
That's right, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I get you out if you're coming in person by about 10:15. If you're online, same thing, 10:15. We're on all platforms, YouTube, our stream for the church, which is at New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church.com. And then we've also got YouTube. So Facebook, YouTube, and our stream. Or in person. Would love to have you there.
Over there on Cottage Grove in 77. Come on now.
That's it. Can't miss us.
Gotta let people know. Gotta let them know. Well, what's the good news today?
The good news is that there is power in waiting. You and I both know a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I want to remind somebody and encourage somebody today that waiting is not mere empty hoping. It has the inner certainty of reaching the goal. Now, waiting has a bad rap, if we're honest, in the modern Western society. And the truth of the matter is that we don't like to wait. And I'm guilty, especially during the earlier periods of my life, of being extremely impatient. I wanted stuff, and I wanted stuff to happen on my timeline. And I was not at all sensitive to the concept of waiting. I thought that it was something you did if you didn't have enough courage or conviction. I thought it was just an excuse not to take action, but I know better now. And what I've learned over time since my younger days is that waiting is one of the most powerful tools we have for creating the life that we actually want. You see, our ego is often very uncomfortable with waiting. This is the part of you that screams, do something. Anything is better than nothing. And because we're very ego-driven in our society, we'll find plenty of external voices that will back up that type of messaging. Our minds hate uncertainty. And here it is. We would rather make a mistake than simply live in a state of not knowing how the right course unfolds. There's a term that I love that describes this place of uncertainty. That word, that term is liminal. A liminal space is at the border or the threshold between possibilities. It's a place of pure potential. So we could go in any direction from this liminal place. There are no bright lights and no obvious signs that are saying, walk this particular way. But liminal spaces can be deeply uncomfortable, and most of us tend to rush through them as quickly as possible. Yet, if we would instead slow down a little bit,
I missed. If we would just slow down, I can't hear Pastor Thurston. Please let me know what is going on. Oh, okay. Now I can hear you. Okay, you're back. All
you got me back? Okay.
I got you
were
back.
muted. Sorry.
The encouragement. Thank you. The encouragement is that we would just slow down because the landscape of the future becomes gradually clear In the same way our eyes adjust when we walk into a darkened room. The ego wants a brightly lit superhighway to the future, but that's not reality. Real life is more like a maze. We take one or two steps in a certain direction and then face another turning point, take a few more steps, face another turning point. And the thing is, making our way forward requires an entirely different set of skills, and waiting is one of the most important skills that we can have. I want us to realize that there's a proper timing to all things, and it's often not the timing that you and I want. There are things that happen on a subconscious level in ourselves and in others that prepare us for the next in our lives. And oddly, when the time to act does come, there's often a sense of inevitability about it, as if it was always meant to be this way. I want us to look back over our lives. And when we do that, we'll begin to see this pattern. First, look at the decisions that you forced. How did that turn out for you? Then look for times when you just knew what to do without even thinking about it. What happened then? The key to the second kind of decision is waiting for that deep sense of inner knowing. Now, that doesn't mean you're certain that everything will turn out exactly the way you want it or that you don't feel fear, but there is a sense of yes. Now is the time in your body that I liken to the urge that migratory birds get when it's time to leave town. They don't stand around debating whether to go, consulting maps or calendars. They just go when the time is right. Well, here's the thing. We're animals too. We have and can cultivate that inner sensitivity that lets us know what to do when the time is right. But to do that, we have to unhook from our mind. Let me say it again. We have to unhook from our mindset. Thinking is useful up to a point, but we usually take it a bit too far to the point where it can become useless. Here it is. I want us to ignore the voice in your head that says you need to make a decision right now. Don't rush through life. Linger in the liminal spaces and see what becomes clear as you sit with uncertainty. Learn to trust your gut more than your head and have faith that the right course will unfold at the right time. And then when the time comes, just do it like Nike says, as simply and naturally as the birds take flight during the migratory season. Just do it that simply and move forward into your next. That's my time today. Thank you for your.
You know, I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, we can unmute him, and we have Dr. Knighton. Dr. Knighton, if you could stay with me for a few minutes after just after the break, I want you to do that, as I have some questions to ask you about life expectancy and the things that we can do to increase it. But Pastor Thurston, are you still there? Oh, wow.
This call dropped.
Okay, well, unfortunately, his call dropped, but I can't wait to speak with him about that again, because that was a powerful message. You can catch him on Facebook live at 3 p.m. on Friday. He's going to be talking about relationships. You know, we all want to talk about relationships, and he is great. Got a background in sociology and psychology, too. Dr. Shanina Knighton, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing great. I have a question for you. We're seeing, why is the life expectancy in the United States? I know this might come out of left field, but it really shouldn't, because this was one of the headlines today. Why is life expectancy in the wealthiest country on earth? Why is it decreasing? I mean, they say that, you know, our access to health care, poverty is a driver of life expectancy. What's going on?
We are the wealthiest country, but we also are one of the unhealthiest countries. And so it's the catch-22 when we talk about, let's say, the concept of freedom and what that means when it comes down to certain factors. Meaning, in our country, it's a place where all care is not treated equal. Mm-hmm. And you brought this up yesterday on the show where African American women are the last to be diagnosed, but the first to die when it comes to breast cancer.
Absolutely.
It's the same exact thing when it comes to food ingredients. So if it's okay, like people have to understand that FDA is to register materials. It is not to monitor materials. So think about how many recalls we have where there's Roundup weed killer, right, inside of food. Not particularly, well, yes, actually, I can't say it any clearer, and I'm not going to just use Roundup, but there's certain brands, okay, of pesticides that are in food that are attached to cancer. We know that there are certain ingredients that are in paint thinners that are inside of food. And so there's all of these ingredients that we know can lead to comorbid conditions. There has been some recent studies as well as recent healthcare providers that are literally using food as medicine. And I don't know if you've heard of this movement, but people are actually utilizing prescriptive plans of food to be able to work on healing people, given the fact that we do understand that there are certain ingredients that might be in something that can hurt someone. So, for example, if you are a cancer patient and someone is offering you, let's say something, I can't even just describe, I guess I can say ginger ale because that's generic. But if someone's offering you ginger ale, but it has caramel coloring in it, it has high fructose corn syrup, and it's got a lot of harmful ingredients, while you're trying to get better in treating your cancer, you're feeding your cancer some of the most harmful ingredients that also lead to tumors. And I know that I'm just touching on the topic of food, but there are numerous reasons why we are in this situation. Look at our response when it comes to COVID and it being about the haves and the have-nots. Look at the response when it comes down to healthcare insurance, that your healthcare insurance determines if you are going to get royal service or if you are going to get poverty-driven service. And while this is sad, it is the reality of where we are, where certain things are just not treated equitable, which is why we have disparities and so much conversation going on right now around educating our healthcare providers on ways to provide equitable care, how to make sure that people's concerns are listened to, how to make sure that cultural issues are being addressed. So there are many factors. And on top of that, to think about the fact that we are not the largest country, but we have the largest incarceration rate. We have the largest crime rate when it comes to the use of guns and what's being done with them. So I think that there's so many different factors, and we don't understand how socioeconomic status has a direct impact on health and can lower your life expectancy because of things that you are going through and experiencing.
Shanina Knight and everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, Heydrnina. We got a lot of work to do, everybody. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about the Trump trial. Back in just a minute. Hey, thank you. Let me pull this up. Okay. How you doing, doctor?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, honey, you know what? I know you're going to want us down for this because you know we're going to talk about Trump, the Trump trial.
Yeah. It's all interesting. So I take it you got Dwight and David today?
No, not Dr. Gibbs. I didn't reach out to him early enough. But I've got Robert Patillo and Reverend Dr. Uri.
Look, that's enough of us. Look, heavy hitters.
Yep.
So,
Yep. You know, because we've got to look at, there's a lot that we need to look at with respect to this. I think. So.
Dr. Knighton.
Good morning.
Dr. Knighton. You are so brilliant.
Morning.
You amaze me. You are so brilliant. You amaze me.
Oh, thank you. That's humbling. It really is.
You are just brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but like they say, iron sharpens iron. So I'm grateful all the time to have experts in their respective field because it makes me confident that we don't have to do everything, right? But it's just do our part. And that'll go a long way.
You be saying things I never would have even thought of.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing.
Well, keep talking. Okay.
All your guests are on.
Okay.
You know,
Robert
and
Patillo,
Good morning.
good morning. And Reverend Dr. Yuri.
Good morning.
Okay.
But yeah, Reverend Dr. Yuri, I tell you, Santita tell you, I be talking about food ingredients all the time. And I just think that, like, our folks, it's got to change. And until it changes, literally, it's no way to get past a lot of these chronic conditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why I stayed out of the kitchen.
Yep. And I always use the analogy that you see it's a lot of people worrying about what's going on the outside and not what's going on the inside. And I always say that you can have a nice, clean coat, pink, red paint Cadillac, but if you got a 700,000
1 minute.
unmaintened engine, what good does it do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. We're
So
going to
lots
jump
and
right
lots
into
of things.
this. We'll jump right into it.
Shannon, I can hear some things.
Okay, just hold on a moment, please.
30 seconds.
Can you hear
That's
anything,
that
Dwight?
printer.
It's the
I'm
printer.
getting you.
Just hold on. It's the printer.
I'm getting you a printer for your 60th birthday. I don't know what to do.
Girl, please.
You have to change that printer out.
That was the only one they had in the store. Now they closed the store. Now, you know I'm upset about that. Oh.
Look, we all feel like we deaf when we listening to that printer.
Well.
You heard me?
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Let's talk about the Trump trial. We're going to have John Nichols on in the second hour, at the bottom of the second hour, to talk about the impeachment of the Biden impeachment. Boy, that was a mess last week. But we're going to be talking about that too. But let's talk about this first. Let's talk about this. And I think we need to look at the fact that if this impacts all of us, how does it impact all of us? Because we all, if we are homeowners, or if you own anything and you want to sell it, you really are vulnerable to the person who has the power is the appraiser. And oftentimes, Black and Latino homeowners, I mean, this is documented, are disadvantaged by the appraisers because appraisers devalue properties owned by Black and brown people. There's a New York Times article that we talked about not too long ago. It's from August of 2022. A home appraised with a Black owner. Well, they went on and got one of their white friends. They said, no, because all the homes around here are worth much more than this. They're approaching $1 million. Certainly $750,000. So they had their white friends step in and act like they were the owners. You know, they switched out the photos and all of that at their home. And the appraiser's appraisal of the home went from $472,000 to $750,000. Now, the appraisal of Mar-a-Lago, which is an historical home, Marjorie Merriweather Post, the serial heiress. Well, she built this. And in 2022 dollars, it would have cost $90 to $118 million to have built this estate. It is absolutely fabulous. It's one of the most opulent homes built in modern times. So opulent that she said, I'm not going to sell it when I die. I'm going to bequeath it to the government because this is such an incredible place that the president should stay here. And heads of state, when they come and visit the president, they should come here. So it was going to be known as the White House of the South. So she bequeathed it to the National Park Service. The National Park Service said, well, it costs a whole lot to keep this up. So back and forth they went. And so Donald Trump entered the picture. And he said, okay, I want to buy it. They said, no. So he said, okay, I'm going to buy an adjacent property and I'm going to build on this property. So you're going to block this beautiful view. Well, back and forth they went and they eventually sold him this property. So for it to have cost $90 to $118 million if you're going to build it today, to be appraised at $18 to $24 million sounds a little strange to me. And it has rattled everybody in Palm Beach, Florida, where this property is located. Because if Mar-a-Lago has been devalued, then what about the $41 million Tommy Hilfiger just got for his estate? And on it goes. What about the person who has an estate that they want to sell for $70 million, $100 million? It is not, this is all subjective, everybody. I want you to look at that. This is not about being an apologist for anyone. This is about understanding how the system disadvantages you. I'm not talking about Trump as much as I am talking about you, but we'll talk about this trial. I think Pam is still there. Pam, are you still there?
No, Pam is not.
Oh, well, Pam, I want you to call back. But call me at 773-763-9278, and let's talk about it. Of course, we've got Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist, Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, brilliant lawyer and pastor. But let's start with you, a brilliant attorney and talk show host on WAOK, part of the national leadership team, you and Reverend Dr. Urey at Rainbow Push. Talk to me. What do you make of this case? And boy, oh boy, former President Trump is firing with all guns at the New York Attorney General Letitia James, the system. Now you've got the media involved, and now you've got Palm Beach real estate speculators and owners involved. They're like, wait. If Mar-a-Lago's only worth $18 to $24 million, what is that going to do to the value of my estate? Hey, what's going on? Robert Patillo.
Well, there's a couple things to distinguish Mar-a-Lago from the other states in the region. Primarily, the Mar-a-Lago was not residential. It was zoned as being commercial. So Mar-a-Lago was, you can rent it out for, a wedding or for a conference. It was a hotel that Trump happened to live at, as opposed to being a residence. Because of that, and the tax write-offs that President Trump took because of that, that pushed down the value versus what it would be for a regular individual residents. And the number that the judge got, they did not just kind of pull out of air. It was in large part based upon the tax filing that Donald Trump was making for Mar-a-Lago and other properties, because when it was time to take out loans, it's worth $1 billion. Yeah, this is definitely worth $1 billion. When it was time to pay taxes and fees, etc., it's worth $25 million. Yeah, this is all $25 million worth of property. And the judge is basically saying that you have to pick a side. Either you're saying that this is a $1 billion property when it's time to take out the loans, then you also have to pay $1 billion worth of taxes on it, or you can say it's worth $25 million when it's time to pay taxes, but you also have to declare that when it's time to take out loans. Donald Trump was trying to game the system by playing both hands at one time, and that's what the judge is coming down on. It wasn't just Mar-a-Lago; it was also his apartment in Trump Tower that they say he overestimated by 3 times the size of and square footage of. Also his property in New Jersey and other properties that he has. And it seems to be part of a pattern and practice of fraud and paperwork, mainly coordinated by Alan Weisselberg, who was the CFO of the Trump Organization, who has already been convicted and will be testifying in this trial against President Trump, as well as Michael Cohen, the president's previous fixer, who will also be called as a witness to testify against him in this trial. And the president defendant would have a pretty simple defense in this case. Either A, say I never said the property was worth that much and just show the paperwork saying you didn't say that, or B, show that the property is indeed worth that much and bring in independent experts and auditors, people from the state who will be able to certify that that's the value of the property. I think that the attacks on the justices and the judges and the district attorneys and the judiciary system and saying America is a corrupt nation. Imagine Barack Obama saying America is a corrupt nation and the conniption that Republicans would have at that point in time. That those attacks don't actually improve his case or the standing of the case. It makes it more difficult, particularly in this case where it's going to be decided by a judge and not a jury. And I think Donald Trump is simply playing for the appeals court, hoping they can delay this until he's back in the White House and make it go away.
So do you think he's going to be able to make it go away? Is he helping his case by going after New York Attorney General Letitia James and the judge and or is he playing to the voters? Or a little bit of both?
He's, of course, playing to the Yeah, he's this is part of the macro strategy, which is that if he knows he's going to lose his case, ostensibly. So this is all just a show for him. He knows he's going to lose the case. His plan is to get this into the appeals court. The appeals will take years, at least. Once it's within the appeals court, then you can slow walk that, hopefully get back into the White House, and then with the additional negotiating power from the White House, be able to figure out a way to get yourself out of this situation. That's the probably most reasonable way out of this. Otherwise, he could see himself facing between $250 and $300 million in fines for this, as well as this potential dissolution of the Trump organization, losing him and his children's right to do business in the state of New York going forward, because they have, of course, defrauded the state on multiple occasions. Remember, they had to pay a $25 million settlement in the Trump University lawsuit. They had to pay $2.5 million for the Trump Foundation, their charitable organization that they were using as a piggy bank. He had to pay $5 million to E. Jean Carroll for sexual assault of her, and now he could be facing potentially $250 million for this case. So, in addition to the 91 felony indictments that he has nationwide, we could be looking at the kind of unraveling of the Trump business empire, which may be more concerning than even the potential loss of his freedom.
And maybe that's why he's in court. Yes. This is the big deal. Dwight McKee, this feeds into, to my way of thinking at least, you're stating that this has been a shell game. That the valuation of real estate assets really the power of that rests with the appraiser, and that varies by race, by the neighborhood that you're in, whether the neighborhood's been gentrified or not, and on and on and on and on. What do you make of this case?
Well, all value is a shell game. Stocks, bonds, all values are based on your values. And so you in a society where a pair of Michael Jordan gym shoes is worth $1 million, where a baseball card is worth $2 million, with a piece of art, of Picasso art, maybe worth $20 million. All value is relative to the values of the person that's either willing to pay or willing to invest in it. And so if you look at a place like Margo, which is some of the most valuable real estate, Mar-a-Lago, Coast's old crib, which is some of the most valuable real estate in the world, where 2 acres of land is selling for $150 million. 1 acre of land is selling for $100 million, just based on the location and the view. I'm talking about land without a house. Then when you assess your land, your house at $150, $250 million in a place like that, it may be undervalued because it's based on what people are willing to pay for it or what you are willing to pay for it. A place like New York, with the best view in the city in one of the most luxurious buildings in the city can well be worth $100 million or $200 million. All you have to find is a rich Saudi or a rich Chinese or billionaire Chinese that's willing to pay for that view. So I think that he's going to win on appeal. I think the judge has no understanding of how things are assessed and how real estate works. And the other part of this is that you can't come to these conclusions without the bank being complicitous. Anybody knows that when you sell your house, that the first thing the bank does is send an appraisal out to verify the value that you're seeking to borrow against, or the value which you were looking to sell the house. And so if he goes to a bank and borrows $1 billion against a real estate asset, the bank has to do its own appraisal to verify that before they lend him the money. If they do that on his word, then they are complicitous, because they didn't protect the people's money. And they have their own banking regulations that they have to abide by, and they're in direct violation of that. If you have to get an appraisal for a $100,000 house or a $200,000 house, how are you going to give somebody $1 million against a piece of property, or $1 billion against a piece of property, and you as a banker not have it appraised, unless you're in on the deal? And so this thing is a little deeper than just than Donald Trump. And once you unravel that, then you have to look at the inequity of those transactions, because then your next question is, well, if Donald Trump is a billionaire and he can go in on his word and get $1 billion loan, then how come Smith can't, who's also a billionaire? How come Oprah can't go in and get $1 billion loan on her word? I mean, there's a disparity there that needs to be looked at. And there's a racism, implicit racism there, that has to be examined. So I think that he's using this for show. I think it's going to work to his advantage. And I think it's going to be overthrown on the appeal, whether or not he's the president or not, because he's going to be able to parade dozens of experts in who will verify the value of much of what his assets are. The fact of the matter is, once they appreciate doing borrowing time and depreciate doing tax time, well, that's how the game is played. That's why you have tax attorneys. That's what a tax attorney does for the rich, is he shows them how to manipulate the system in such a way as they can save taxes when necessary, and not pay taxes when it's necessary, which is why they have tax havens all over the world where they put their money so they don't have to pay taxes. The richest corporations in the world pay no taxes at all. It's a shell game. And I think once the public really understands that, they won't just become mad at Donald Trump. Some will be mad at Donald Trump, but they'll be more angry at the system, because the poor would know that we've been gamed all these years.
I wish I wish Robert Smith, or please, Bob Johnson or Sheila Johnson would go to Forbes and say, I'm worth $10 billion. I wish they would. I mean, because, the Forbes would then turn them upside down, inside out, as Black billionaires and say, I don't even believe it. But, Donald Trump, whose valuations have varied wildly over the years. They would say he's worth $2 billion, and he'll call them and say, no, I'm worth 10, I'm worth 20. And he'd call Forbes and talk to the editors and blah, 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 and get everything changed. And why is that important, everybody? Because it's the perception, how you're perceived by people. If you get on the list, there's a certain perception people have of you. And there's a certain perception that banks have of you. And then your wife, in particular, typically gets on a certain committee for a charity. But if you don't make this party, you're not on the list. So that can damage you, not just socially, but in terms of business. This is how the game works, everybody. Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, your thoughts.
Good morning, Santita.
Now, what
to
was
my
that
colleagues,
about?
I have a number.
What was
Pam is back on.
What was the about?
Well, you asked my thoughts. I have a number of them. Let me give you the one where one of the things we understand in the Black church is that sometimes the Black church is the largest holder of community real property on behalf of the Black community. Douglas Memorial is not distinct in that regard. We actually have our own housing corporation. We own multifamily housing. We own the block. And so that entity, which by virtue of my pastoral responsibility, I am the CEO of, I understand the real estate appraisal piece. One of the things we observed and worked through is that during COVID, the value of the properties went down, and they went down precipitously. And so when you start looking at commercial real estate appraisals, there are a couple of things that get you to a number. It's not just the measurements of the building, the age of the building, the type of construction of the building. It's also the comps. This goes to Big Brother Dwight's points. If you are comping a property in an area that has already been redlined, where the capital to be able to support the transactions that undergird value, right? One of the ways you can establish what the value of a thing is to Big Brother Dwight's point, is what is somebody willing to pay for it? If you can get somebody to buy it for that, that's what it's worth. You don't need an appraiser to tell you that. You know that's at least what it's worth. When you start trying to figure out how it compares to other properties, then you start looking at similar properties in a certain geographic area. If that geographic area is foreclosed from the ability to facilitate the transactions that reinforce value, now you have to come up with a subjective assessment of what this might be worth if you could get somebody to pay it. Here's where I think the former president has a bit of a difficulty, and this is where Robert Patillo, I think, kind of lays it out. If you assign your own value for tax benefit purposes, and it's not reasonable, and it's not backed up, if it's not based on something where the analysis has looked at other comps in other areas based on similar factors, then you leave room for the assessment that this could be a fraudulent value assessment to avoid paying tax. This is really where they're going with that. The interesting part is this is in state court. To understand that the feds are watching this, because that value assessment, when we start looking at what's going on at the state transaction level, may actually carry over into what's actually filed on the corporation's federal file. You just got to kind of figure out where they go. The testimony is going to be interesting, and to see whether or not the IRS gets into it. Because if you start taking a particular gain, a monetary gain that leads to some cash flow benefit, and there is no way to write it off, and you then do not claim it, then you have an issue with underpaying Uncle Sam, as my daddy would say, Uncle Sugar. If Uncle Sugar don't get his money, Uncle Sugar ain't going to be happy. And so you see the thing that they're trying to get the former president to deal with is what has often been, if you talk to folks in real estate in New York City, they will always tell you that because Donald Trump has always wanted to be amongst that class of real estate developers, he's always had to put on this air of having a value that he could not back up. And so that group, this is where Big Brother Dwight would like it, that group is sitting here amused to see that he's being taken on, because he has always imposed himself of being in a class that he did not earn his way into. He got his start from his dad. His dad had relationships. He then tried to parlay it and then present himself as this larger-than-life person that ends up being president of the United States. That's going to be a big deal in this. When you start this is a fight of the elephants. The elephants don't fight over much, but don't fight over money. When it comes down to this, that's what this is, and folks are looking at it. And in the meantime, I think what you're going to come away with is that the former president is using it to play into this narrative. They are coming after me because they're really coming after you. It's going to reinforce and galvanize his base for the benefit of securing the Republican nomination and being on the November ballot. Because even were he to be decertified in New York State and lose his licenses, and they say you're no longer a corporation, and he may have to liquidate or turn over the assets to a holding corporation or a receiver. That's a whole different thing. What this is for him is he's showing up as the gladiator in the room to give the impression that he's not just fighting a case, he's fighting a principle. And that principle accrues to the voters he wants to hold captive until he gets through these primaries. And so whether or not it takes a year or 10 years to go through the appeal process in state court, he does not really care, because he'll be able to translate it to his own personal benefit, because he's not trying to be the billionaire. He wants to be the one with the pen that's the trillionaire who's writing that federal budget for another 4 years.
Well, as we look at this case, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, Attorney Robert Patillo, and Dwight McKee, I want to look at how this impacts all of us. Because anytime a Black family have a home that is appraised at $472,000, but then they have to have their white friends to get it properly appraised, and then it's reappraised at $750,000, and this happens routinely, something's going on. Neighborhoods on the north and south and east and west sides of Chicago look the same. But you know what happens? When the decision has been made or is made to gentrify a neighborhood, people who've lived there for years get pushed out for pennies. And then people are able to move in for pennies. And then they can sell their properties or have their properties reevaluated at millions, and then they're able to get bank loans. It changes all of their life options. That's what happens in this case. And of course, these business persons do this all the time. They inflate the value so that they can get more money from the banks. So the banks are complicit. But they deflate the value so they don't have to pay the taxes. That's real too. And it happens all the time. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And we need to look at the game and see how we're all gamed. The poor and working class and working people get gamed all the time. Let's look at this, everybody. This goes way beyond Trump. Pam, you stay right there, because I'm going to bring you up first on the other side of the break on the Santita Jackson Show. Stay right here, everybody. You all keep talking. Let me bring up Pam. Pam,
She's on.
Okay, Pam. Pam?
Yes.
Hey,
Santita, how are you?
I'm doing well,
Hello.
sweetie. Don't spend your best stuff over here. I'm going to bring you on the radio, but you can speak to Reverend Dr. Geary, Attorney Patillo, and Dwight McKee while we are on break. That's what I wanted to
Oh,
do,
sure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sister
Hello.
Pam.
Good morning. Good morning. I just wanted to add, Santita, you're absolutely right. It is a game. And I know a little bit about the real estate industry here in Chicago. So my concern with Donald Trump is that, and you all let me know if I'm correct, so he's already been convicted of, I think, fraud. This is just to discuss the punitive damages, correct? Hello?
That's correct. I think the
He's
judge
been convicted.
I think this
I'm sorry.
there's a finding, but this is actually is this a trial?
Yes.
Well, what happened was last week the judge found on motion for summary judgment that Trump had already committed fraud. So this trial primarily is about determining how much that fine will be, whether it'll be $250 million, $300 million, and also whether or not it was malicious in such a way that will require the removal of the Trump business licenses for both Donald Trump, the Trump children, and the Trump organization from New York, which will ban him from doing business in New York going forward.
Okay.
All right.
And it's good to know that, Santita, and bring that forth because that's not being really covered and explained in corporate media. So I think that would be one point that would be valuable. Also, with Donald Trump, he overinflated for the purposes of getting high appraisal values. He underdeflated or deflated the prices in order to take advantage of the taxes. Now, it's my clear understanding that is unacceptable. However, Santita, you are absolutely right. It is the banking industry that is complicit in this. It is the appraisal industry complicit in this. And I've had to fight on behalf of some clients to have an appraisal redone because the value came in too low. I've had to, as an agent, that's why, Santita, when you talk about the company using real estate agents, it is important that you have a real estate agent that you trust, in trust, with one of your most valuable purchases.
Stay right there,
because,
Pam. And
sure,
someone
I'm
who's
sorry,
no, don't apologize. I'm just jumping in with you, my sister, and someone who's respected by the system, someone who's in. That's why certain lawyers are hired for certain cases. If you get into a certain kind of difficulty in Washington or in New York, there's some lawyers that you go to and you pay them top dollar because they're in the system. Okay, and you do it here, you do it everywhere. And all I'm trying to do, Pam, is help people to see the game in all of this. You understand what I'm saying? And see how it impacts us, because Black and Latino homeowners are routinely gamed. And I think we're so and people, and they're not being honest about how this actually works, Pam. Because what he is doing is standard operating practice. I don't care what they say; they know it's true.
Here's the game.
True.
And Pam,
but it's
Pam,
still
let me ask you.
illegal.
No, it might be. And slavery was legal. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, girl, please.
So here's where the banks get in the game, right? So the banks want to lend to make money, right? So the value helps to secure the transaction. To lower the tax liability is important because the one entity that can move the bank out if the property is lost is the government. So if you don't pay your taxes, you don't pay your real estate taxes, the government can seize the property, whether or not there's money owed on it, and the bank can be left holding the bag. So what the bank wants to see is, how do I maximize my profits in the lending transaction, minimize my risk in the taxing transaction, so that if down the road there's a risk of default on the loan or a risk of not paying the taxes, I can protect my interest in this real property and cut my losses and cut my risk. That's the whole game. In Black and brown communities, the appraisal value issue comes down to, one, the notion of wealth, right? So if wealth is tied to your assets versus your debts or your obligations, that then becomes a calculation, and it's real property that closes that racial wealth gap more than anything else, faster than anything else. And so it ends up having a communal impact when you see large swaths of properties that look like properties on the other side of town, but they're sold or valued at half the value of stuff on the other side of town. That becomes then an imposition of a certain amount of wealth depletion on an entire area and an entire group of people. That's the whole hustle. It shows up when we've seen an appraisal come, and if it's a Black family with all of their Black art on the wall, there's a certain value, a certain subjective value assigned there. But if you flip it and put some white people in it and take all of your Black art off the wall, your property value goes up significantly, like by a third in some of these transactions, even more. That then becomes a different kind of thing, because the subjective nature of the appraisal part of it and the comp part of it means we've got this history. We've got to go back and
1 minute
and going back generations to see how we're looking at the cumulative effect of wealth depletion in Black and brown communities because of the arbitrary nature of how appraisals are done and how the banks do to protect their ability to make profit. They want to see low taxes so their risk of being displaced in the priority if there's a seizure, but also want to raise the possibility of how much money they're going to make from the people they want to lend the money to anyway.
Well, the thing is, and it's not even arbitrary.
30 seconds.
This is a plan.
Let me give you the flip side of that.
No, stand by. No. We're coming up in 20 seconds. Let's do that on the air. But I'm going to bring up Pam first, okay?
All right.
So I want you to go back into that because that's why I'm bringing this up today. We'll see how we're all gamed here. Stand by.
10 seconds. Stand by.
Thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
To a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820. We are talking about the Trump trial today, everybody. The Trump trial. What is going on and what does it say to us about how real estate is valuated and evaluated and appraised in the United States in this economy? I think it's very important for us to get past Trump. Of course, look at that case. It's important, but it's all subjective. And we need to talk about that and see how how Black and brown communities, the most vulnerable communities, are helped or hindered by this process. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Pam is holding. I'm going to get to you as soon as I get through these headlines so that we can talk about this. I think it's very, very important that we talk about this because it is something that the Biden administration is fighting right now. The racial bias in home appraisals. It disparately impacts in a negative way Black and brown homeowners. A New York Times article from last year showed you that a Black family had a home that they knew was worth at easily northwards of $700,000. When the appraisers came in, they valued the home at $472,000. They said, what we're going to do is get our white friend to come in and pose as the homeowner. We're going to switch out these pictures. You know, that's what we're going to do. And they did that. And guess what? The appraisal went up to $750,000. This happens routinely, and you see it in gentrifying neighborhoods. The homes on the south and north sides of Chicago, east and west, look the same. The difference is capitalization. The value that is placed on these homes and who lives in them. When they're Black and brown homeowners, they're worthless. When they're white homeowners, the sky's the limit in terms of what they're worth. We need to look at that. Of course, these homeowners, of course, these real estate speculators, and they're able to, and they use each other. Forbes feeds the 400. And so in the 400, if you get on the list, the banks are more eager to do business with you, and it just keeps on going. But you can't get a loan for a car. And you're working every day. The only people who really have wealth that you can really put a finger on are working people because we get salaries. But the wealthy people, their value they assign it to each other and they keep themselves in the club. We need to think about that. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Let's get some of these headlines out the way. The House Speaker is facing an historic attempt to remove him from office. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, who's also seeking to run for governor, filed a motion yesterday to oust Speaker Kevin McCarthy for passing the bill to avert the shutdown for Democratic votes. Well, we're going to see what's going to happen. He is going to have to get Democratic votes in order to hold on to the speakership. What do you think that is going to look like, everybody? And the writer's strike is over and late night TV has returned. Are you excited about that? FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's trial begins today. He's accused of defrauding customers and investors out of billions of dollars. His cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsed last year. The trial could last up to 6 weeks. Trump's trial could last up to 3 months. His fraud trial is underway. We're talking about that. He appeared in court in this civil trial in this $250 million lawsuit alleging rampant fraud at his business properties in the state. He might not be able to do business again or hold property in the state should he lose this case, everybody. Let's talk about the weather today. It will be in the 80s here in Chicago and in Minneapolis, St. Paul. 83 degrees and sunny in Chicago. 84 degrees, mostly cloudy in Minneapolis, St. Paul. The regular baseball season is over, so the playoffs are on. The wild card bid, well, one of those bids goes to the Minnesota Twins. Yay for you, first in the American League Central. They will be playing the Blue Jays this afternoon. The Seahawks bested the New York Giants yesterday. last night, 24-3 in the WNBA championship. We're going to have to wait till Sunday to watch the Liberties face off against the Aces, everybody. You know, as we talk about home ownership, I want you to reach out to Team Hochberg. Reach out to Team Hochberg. Even in this uncertain climate, home ownership really is within your grasp, but you need to talk to some people about it. And you can hold on to your home too if you might be looking at foreclosure, if your money's gotten a little funny. I want you to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, so that they can give you some advice and they can structure a plan to help you to keep your home or to buy a home. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are seeing that first-time home buyers, the numbers continue to diminish. Indeed, I came across an article in CBS News that shows that homes are unaffordable. Get this, Dwight McKee and Reverend Dr. Todd Geary and Robert Patillo, for 99% of Americans, if you can believe that. 99% of Americans, it is tight out here. It is tight out here, but guess what? It does not have to be for you. It does not have to be. So I want you to call Team Hochberg. Oh, yes, this is a CBS News report, everybody, from September 28th, 2023. The typical American cannot afford to buy a home, they say. They write, in a growing number of communities across the nation. This is from a study. But Team Hochberg wants to hook you into programs that will help you to buy a home. If you're in Chicago and the total household income, your total household income is $105,000 or $700 below that figure, you might be eligible for this program from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, and see if you're eligible. But you can't have owned a home in the past 3 years. You might have owned one 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But in the past 3 years, if you've owned a home, if you've not owned a home, you are eligible for this program. So go to 56david.com and look at the program, check it out, but call them at 855-56-DAVID. They might be able to help you. And guess what? They also have a credit card that will help you to restore your credit, build your credit, rebuild your credit. You can do that. It's a secured credit card. And I want you to reach out to them so that you can move into economic freedom. Let's talk about this Trump trial, everybody. Pam has called in because did she go already?
Yes.
Pam, call back. Girl, I told you I wanted to bring you on the air. I want to bring you on the air because you raised some profound questions because you have experience in this market. And I want you all to call me at 773-763-9278. What do you think this trial is telling us? What do you think it's showing us? Reverend Dr. Geary, you were making a point, and then Dwight McKee responded to it. If you could succinctly present us the point that you were making during the break.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, the bank's role in this is they want to enhance their profits and minimize their risk. And a couple of places that they try to minimize their risk is in the tax exposure if there were to be a default or a failure to pay taxes by whoever purchases a property. So the one entity that always displaces the bank on the deed, if there ends up being a competition for interest, right? Let's say you don't pay your water bill to the local government. You don't pay your property taxes. The government can come seize the property independent of whether or not there's money owed on it, and then the bank is stuck, right? So many times the bank, to protect their interests, have to pay unpaid property taxes if there's a default. So the banks want to see lower tax exposure, higher profit benefit based on what's in the transaction to make interest on the value of the loan, because that's what they got to do. They're in the profit-making business, but they have to minimize the economic risk. And so that's part of the gaming that gets into this thing when you start looking at how the banks view a transaction. And when they start penciling whether or not it's profitable, it sometimes comes down to what's the tax risk if the taxes aren't paid, but also what's the upside benefit and the risk if the loan isn't paid.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
But there's a flip side to this. I'm going to tell you how they inflated the value of the Black community. Is in 2008, they started giving Black people what they call no-doc loans. That is, you don't have to document your cash flow. They loaned you a house at 2% with a balloon interest rate that went up to 10%. You could get in the house for 2%, because that may be $1,000 a month. But if it ballooned up to 10% interest rate, then you'd have to pay $2,000 a month. What they did is they sold it to you at 2%. They bundled all of the houses over the blocks, a number of blocks of houses they own. Then they took that to the marketplace, brought in AIG to certify that, to ensure that, and then took it to the marketplace, the secondary marketplace, and the tertiary marketplace, and sold the bundles at 10%, knowing that the people didn't have that money, but they imposed that value. And so the Saudis or somebody, the sovereign funds would come in and spend billions of dollars on houses that really the people who they were leveraging only had the income to sustain millions of dollars. And that's how the market crashed. And AIG, who had guaranteed the rates, didn't have enough money to be able to substantiate the insurance. And so what did they do? They went to the American Treasury and held them up and say, y'all gonna pay for this. You all are gonna pay for this. Even though we made the money, you all got to pay, otherwise the system is gonna collapse. So the taxpayers end up paying, and part of the settlement was they paid under the notion that the government was going to save the houses. Guiding them didn't put the money in the houses. They put the money in paying the bonuses for the folk who had run the scam in the first place. P.T. Barnum said early in, it's a sucker born every minute. And that is the system. The system is finding a sucker and putting them in the mix. It's three-card body, you all. And in most cases, the taxpayers, or we are at the bottom of the thing, are the suckers.
Robert Patillo, what are your thoughts? I mean, because I just can't help but look at the subjectivity of all of this. And this is happening at a time when the Biden administration is fighting this racial bias in home appraisals. That is very real. I mean, we see this played out all the time, and everyone wants to focus on former President Trump, and you should look at it. But please, what the Palm Beach real estate market has been rattled. Tommy Hilfiger just sold his estate for $41 million. His estate, because now Mar-a-Lago is a mix. It's residential and it's commercial. I get all of that. But when you evaluate Mar-a-Lago at 18 to $24 million, I mean, I get it, but that game, it just reeks, Robert. We could never get away with that, ever.
Well, the best piece of advice I ever got from a rich person was that money is for poor people. And it did not make sense to me at 18, 19 years old when I heard it, but now pushing 40, it makes a whole lot more sense. Because in reality, when you are rich, you don't need money. As you said, you walk into the bank and you say, well, I'm worth $10 billion. And they say, well, show me some documentation. How dare you ask me for documentation? I'm worth $10 billion. And they give you a loan for $1 billion. And then you take that loan that they just materialize out of thin air and you use that to invest it. Now, once you have materialized gains from that investment, well, now you actually have created tangible money literally from nothing. You just created money out of the air. Poor people don't have that option. Money is a very real thing to us. Money is food. Money is housing. Money is life. Money is kids getting to school, etc. Exactly.
So wait a minute, hold on, because let me say that, because you assign a value to me every day. Okay, a hard core value. But my point is, the very wealthy, their value comes out of thin air. They can bargain with Forbes, invite them to some parties, stay in with them, stay on the list, and continue to be considered super wealthy, get their money. And I mean, really, come on now, Robert.
Yeah, I represented a client too. Of course, I can't mention his name, but he was a multi-millionaire who had gotten into some very bad drugs and investments and had lost all of the money. And he was able to continue this kind of shell game of robbing Peter to paying Paul, moving numbers around, etc., for years, for close to a decade, before anybody finally, before he suffered any consequences of the actions. And that was really just because he got sloppy with it. We have to understand that what we teach people in the Black community in particular about money is completely false. The things that you learn in accounting class and so on and so forth in high school, those are the numbers and those are the methods that keep you broke. The Trump accounting that we're talking about right now is the accounting of the very, very super rich. And the reason we're seeing some of the normal progressives who will be angry at Trump not saying a lot about this case is they do the same thing on their taxes. They do the same thing when it comes to business and when it comes to numbers. And the biggest fear that the system has is everyone else finding out exactly how the system works. As I think Dwight made the point about gentrification, that you can play around with those numbers as much as you feel like for whatever purpose you want. So when you want to destroy your community, you just devaluize all the houses, you devaluize the property, you tell everybody it ain't worth nothing. When you want, then you allow the developers to come in, buy it for a penny on the dollar. Then as soon as that is done, you say, well, you guys can't afford to live here now. They put a dog park and a Whole Foods here. Therefore, your property taxes have quadrupled, and now you have to move also. We need to understand that, particularly in civil rights, oftentimes we're fighting the battles of 50 years ago still. We're trying not to lose the progress we made in the 1950s and the 1960s. We have to be prepared for the battles of the 21st century. The economic front of the civil rights movement is the new front that we need to be on, and we need to be teaching our young people from Gen Alpha to Gen Z that these are the fights you need to be in, and this is how you succeed within it. Reverend Jackson was the first leader who really went into the corporations buying stock, making demands, etc. We have to take that ball, pick it up, and move it on forward to understand that if money is going to be imaginary for everybody else, it needs to be imaginary for us too, and we have to figure out how to create it and distribute it through our communities to have more equity. If that's how the game is going to be played, as they say, let's make sure we know how to play the game.
Well, and let us remember Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan from Philadelphia, who would lead the African American Summit. He would take us to Africa every year. Hundreds and then more than 1,000 would go to Africa with him every year so that we could begin to put our feet in the soil and establish relationships and then business relationships over there. But he also established the idea for Operation Breadbasket. He told Dr. King, we've got to move from civil rights to silver rights. You've heard Reverend Jackson tell that story, Dwight McKee and Attorney Patillo and Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, silver rights. Indeed, Reverend said if you could break up the civil rights movement into a symphony with four phases, the final symphony, the final movement of the symphony is the economic front. And this is what we're looking at. And I think we have got to acknowledge that. I mean, Dwight, I don't want us to get caught up in the cult of personality and be so caught up in Trump and whether we like him or not. And da-da-da-da. I mean, okay, that's important. I got you. But look at how the game is played. Oh my gosh. I mean,
can I one up you on this one real quickly? I won't be long. Yes, I'll show you how deep this thing is. My mentor was Ernie Banks, who was Mr. Cub. He taught me most of what I know. Ernie Banks explained to me one time, because they lost for 100 years. They couldn't win anything. He said, let me tell you why we don't win anything, why we can't win. He said, here's how this game is set up. He said, the Wrigley's on the Cubs. He said, they make their money in chewing gum. He said, but they own the Cubs as a tax write-off. He said, so what they do is they bring in older players who they can depreciate on the tax side. And so they bring in older players. And by the time August, we play day games. When August comes around and the sun comes out and it's 90 degrees, the older players can't really hold up there. He say, and so by September, we don't have the energy to be able to win. He said, well, they're bringing the older players. So because the older players, you can depreciate. You get the tax write-off. He said, that's how the game is played. It was mind-blowing to me. He said, so we ain't won in 100 years, not because we can't play.
But because
it's
the players
we
are
caught up
100
in the
years
game.
old.
We locked in the game.
The players are 100. That's why
That's right. He told me that as a child. He taught me that. He's the one that made me a social scientist. He said, but we never win. He said, because it ain't about baseball, it's about gum.
I'm feeling some kind of way. That's all I know. I'm feeling some kind of way. Patillo says he's pushing 40, and Dwight over here talking about depreciating old people. I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm feeling some kind of way.
Oh, Dwight, you messed up my rhythm here. Gee whiz, I'm watching the Cubs on walkers trying to get to first base and being carried home. I can't take it. Just a minute. Oh, Pam, please go back. Look.
He said to me, he said, see this young guy over here, this young guy named Lou Brown. He said he's going to be a star. He said he'll be out of here in 2 months, and they're gonna bring in an old ball player to take his place. They brought in Ernie Broglio, who was 40, and Lou Brock got traded at 20, and they took the write-off.
Oh man. Oh man. Coming up, we'll be talking with John Nichols about the Biden impeachment, but I want him to weigh in on this too, because boy, oh boy, this is a whole lot. Santita Jackson Show. Back in just a minute. Oh, Dwight, that story just slayed me. That was so rich. Oh man. Oh. But oh boy.
It was my first lesson on economy. It was my first lesson on what this thing was about. I was 11 years old. He explained it to me.
Well, Karen Lene said, is this conversation on air? She'd love to hear from Pam. Pam, that's why I really wanted you to call back, my sweet. She said, it appears as if Trump has done nothing wrong, her emphasis, simply because everyone does it. That's the response to his wrongs. Interesting. No, Pam, that's not my point. My point is this unfortunately, this is how the business is done. Sadly. So, while y'all want to beat up on Trump and, of course, Robert Kennedy, I think is going to become an independent and all of that, that's not going to help us as we're watching black and brown voters hemorrhage from the Democratic Party. The latest figures have Trump at 20% with black people and more than 40% with Latinos. Don't get mad with me. I'm just giving you the numbers. And I'm saying that there is a way around this, but there, you got to tell people the truth, Karen. You got to tell people the truth. And beyond Trump, you got to look at this game and see how it disadvantages. I'm trying to tell you, I don't have to tell you, I'm trying to amplify for you what happens to black and brown homeowners. This is a game. It's terrible. John Nichols, how are you?
I'm well, my friend. How are you?
Oh, man. Dwight McKee just said something that just cracked me up. Dwight, why don't you tell him what Ernie Banks, your godfather, taught you about baseball? Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. You'll probably write a story about it. Dwight, I got about a minute.
When I was about 11, John, Ernie Banks was my mentor. And he said to me, he said, let me tell you why we can't. He said, we ain't won in 100 years. He said, this is how this game is played. He said, the Wrigley's own the Cubs. They also own Wrigley Gum. He said, they bought the Cubs as a tax write-off. And what they do is every year, they bring in older ball players so they can depreciate them, so they can pay less taxes at the Wrigley Company. He said, so by the time September, we say we only play the day baseball. They don't have lights back then. He said, so by when August comes and the sun comes out, it's 90 degrees. The older players, they cave in because they can't handle the sun. He's saying, so they take the tax write off. We lose every year because by September we be spent. And they take the money and run. He said, this ain't about baseball. This is about gum. And so he said, we ain't won in 100 years and we won't win. And then he looked over, he said,
1 minute.
Here. He said, his name is Lou Brock. Say, this kid can play. He's going to be a superstar. He's going to be a major player. This guy can really play. He can run, hit, and throw. He said, but he's going to be out of here in 2 months. I said, really? With his potential? He said, yeah. And watch who they bring in. They shipped him out. They brought him Ernie Brodio, who was 40 years old.
30 seconds.
Stand by. We got 20 seconds. Oh, my word.
Baseball is not that different from politics, my friend.
Oh, you guys, stop. Really? You're giving me...
10 seconds.
They're doing it for the gum.
Oh, man. Stand by.
Stand by.
1,000 bases.
We're
Ernie
coming
Brodio
up.
never won 2 months of that
Gosh,
serve.
all of you.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Ooh, you know what time it is. It is time to talk with John Nichols. But, you know, Robert Patillo and Reverend Dr. Todd Geary and Dwight McKee are still sticking around. Boy, Dwight has cracked me up talking about how the Cubs stayed in business. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. John Nichols, Nation Magazine, New York Times bestselling author. It's okay to be mad about capitalism. He and Bernie Sanders telling the truth. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But, you know, Dwight was just telling you a story. We've been talking about the Trump trial. I mean, there's so many trials that we're going to be talking about. It's just, I don't know, you know, I can't even keep up. But I wanted you to weigh in on that before we go into this other trial, the impeachment inquiry. Because, you know, when I look at gentrification, when I look at Black homeowners and Latino homeowners who routinely have their homes underappraised by appraisers. You know, there's a New York Times article, you know, from last year, and you know it well. When they presented the home as being owned by Black people, $472,000. When they changed out the photos and had their white friends step in, the whole home was reappraised at $750,000. There, you know, that's the game here. You know, you inflate the prices so you can be able, and you get on the Forbes 400 list so you can get money from the banks. Because that's the game they play with each other. They keep each other on the list. It's social, political, cultural, and it's business. And then, you know, you turn around, and when it's tax time, oh, this is worthless. I've taken a loss. It's $1 billion loss, so they don't have to pay taxes for 10, 20 years. I mean, I want the truth to be revealed in this trial, but I think that if we do not look at the whole truth of the whole industry and how Black, brown, and working people are disadvantaged, we're going to miss the point. We miss an opportunity, a teachable moment, John Nichols.
Absolutely. And look, that's the way to understand it. You don't look at pretty much anything involving Trump as just being of Trump, right? If you do, you miss the point. Trump, why did Trump become president of the United States? I mean, if we go back to the core reality, everybody says, oh, he appealed to the working class, and everybody says, oh, he talked about these things, he did all that. The bottom line of what got Trump across that line to the presidency back in 2016 was a sense that he was a capable businessman, right? That he was a billionaire, that he had all these ideas, and that somehow this guy who made a lot of wealth could then become president of the United States and run things like a businessman. That was a huge part of his appeal. And that was the thing if all these other things, all the racism, all the xenophobia, all the false premises of his appeals to the working class, that got him to a certain point. But what got him across the line, got him into the presidency, was this thing where even when people heard bad stuff about him, they said, yeah, but he's a businessman. He knows what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. Well, that reality is what's now being explored. And what we learn is that Donald Trump, like an awful lot of businessmen, like an awful lot of powerful and wealthy people in America, didn't get to where they were by skill or knowledge or hard work. They got there because the system is rigged to benefit them. And they take advantage of that rigging. Remember when in the debate, Hillary Clinton said, well, Trump doesn't pay his taxes, right? And Trump turns and says, yeah, that's because I'm smart, right? I mean, in the world where he operates, the thing you learn is not how to do business well. It's how to cheat, right? How to take advantage of the openings in the system that will benefit a wealthy white man. And that's what he did. And so now some of that is coming out, right? It's coming out in this trial. And what you realize is he played all the games. He overvalued things and undervalued them based on, the moment he was in. How can he make the most money? Again, not by doing something smart or skillful, right? Not by, adding value to society, but by gaming the system to his advantage. And you're going to find that in many of these other trials as well. If we only focus on Trump, then the system never gets fixed, right? You'll get another Trump down the line. 10 years from now, you'll have somebody else saying, oh, I'm a good businessman, elect me president. In fact, we even have a couple of them running this time. And that's the mistake. We need to pause and look at these trials as an opportunity to understand the corruption of the system, right? The rigging of the system, the structuring of the system to benefit the few as opposed to the great many. And that's, I think, what's coming out. That's one of the ways to look at it. It's also, frankly, the way to look at all of the stuff that's going on with Trump right now. He's got 91 indictments against him. Mm-hmm. They come for all sorts of different reasons. But in every case, every one of those indictments, what you come back to is this is somebody gaming the system because openings were created for him, at least that he interpreted it, to game it, right? To take advantage of it. And if you think he's the only one doing that, if you think Donald Trump is an isolated individual, then you are missing the entire picture.
See, before we go on to this madness of the impeachment hearing last week, oh gosh, the reason I'm bringing this up is because how the Biden administration has formally put forth an effort to really deal with the inequities in home appraisals of Black and brown homeowners. It's a laudable effort, and it's because it's very real. It deprives us of our wealth, and for us to look at him and only him and say, oh wow, he's the biggest crook. It's a crooked system. Elizabeth Warren told you it's rigged. He told you it's rigged. It's rigged, and it's rigged against you. The only people who get true assigned value are working people because we get salaries. We get money stamped on us. The Fortune 500, they can argue themselves on and off the list. The banks decide because it's a social, political, cultural, and business environment. Your wife gets on this particular charity because people think you have this kind of money, and on and on and on. I want people to understand that instead of don't hate the player, hate the game. And look at how you are gamed in this system.
Yeah, and we're looking now a lot at the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and all the corruption associated with the Supreme Court, right? And you see Clarence Thomas is flying around with billionaires, and his wife Jenny Thomas has done all these boards and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. First it comes, you start seeing it with Clarence Thomas. You say, oh, wow, that's really bad. He should be recusing himself. Maybe he shouldn't even be on the court. And then you say, oh, well, yeah, but that's also Alito. And then you're like, oh, that's also Roberts. Oh, that's also... And what you realize is it's the whole thing.
Wait a minute, and they're their own police.
They're not only their own police, but again, you have this situation where, people who are economically powerful or politically powerful start to take advantage of their circumstance, right? In ways that if a working class person did for 1 second, did just one of the things these people are doing, they would be not just out the door of their work, they would be facing prosecution. And you look at Menendez, the senator from New Jersey, right? Taking gold bars and having $400,000 in his house, and he's like, and he's still sticking it out. He's saying, "Oh, well, this is, I just had to do this because, this is how I make sure that I'm secure," or something like that. Well, you understand, people who move in this world, they actually start to believe that, it's that the rules are written for them, that the system is designed so that they can do what they want to do, even when it goes to incredibly outrageous levels. And again, that's what you need to understand with Trump. Trump is noisy and loud and present at every turn, kind of literally walking us through his corruption. He goes out on the steps of courthouses and essentially admits it, right? He does it in debates, in presidential debates. But behind Trump are 1,000 other incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful business people who don't make a lot of noise. And frankly, who make a lot more money, right? Because they game the system to their advantage. And if we want to fix this thing, that's what Senator Sanders and I write about in our book, you have to step back and look at the systems. And at the heart of this is a economic system which has been warped. Capitalism itself, can work, good and bad. It can do positives and negatives. But we don't have a capitalist system that's working in any kind of positive way. We have uber capitalism. We have a capitalist system right now that is designed to make the wealthy dramatically wealthier, to make the poor poorer. And you saw that when they took away the income credits for, or child tax credits, right? And you suddenly poverty shoots up. And remember these two things: to make the rich richer, to make the poor poorer, and to make the working class pay for it all. That's the way the system is currently designed. And so working class people buy a little house and they struggle to pay that mortgage. They don't go on vacation. They don't live large because they're just trying to get across, the line, just trying to make it, right? Whereas rich people, they lie about the value of their house. They lie about what they should pay on their taxes. They go on that vacation. They live large because they know at this point the system is rigged in their favor.
That's my only point.
And you're right at all.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think that, we're making a mistake. And Daryl said, yes, this is bigger than Trump and needs to be fixed, but he's at the forefront right now trying to run the country. We need to do everything we can legally, lawfully, morally, he writes, and ethically to stop him from ever getting the keys to the White House. Again, the problem is, though, he's not alone. And I'm just saying, even the fact that he's been put in the forefront and you are looking at the people just behind him and the folks who are actually ahead of him.
That's right.
I think we're missing. I just hate for us to miss that point when home appraisal is something that we all have to deal with, John.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I think we can, at least on this show, your wise listeners and your wise guests, they can think two things at the same time, right? They can think Trump needs to be held to account and that it's important because he's sort of the face of much of this, but that also there's a much deeper system that needs to be addressed. And the one thing to understand about all that is, you look at Trump's presidency and you say, well, what was his great success? He talks about all sorts of stuff, right? The one thing he almost never talks about was actually the biggest quote unquote success of his presidency was that he got in there and he did a massive sweeping tax cut for the rich, right? He literally redistributed, a huge portion of America's wealth upwards, the people that are already very rich. And under Trump, the rich got dramatically richer. The gap between rich and poor grew immensely, right? And that was not done in secret. It wasn't behind closed doors. That was tax policy. And it was the core thing that Trump did as president of the United States. And so, you should hold Trump to account. recognize that he isn't, kind of the leader of this thing. He operates as an agent of wealth and power, right? He came into the White House and he did the bidding of wealth and power. That was the core thing that he did. He made the rich richer. And so, yeah, you hold him to account because maybe that's a little opening that you start to address the much deeper crisis, which is that if it wasn't Trump, it would have been somebody else.
Like
and
Reagan.
Remember, all the people who now criticize, think of all the people who now criticize Trump. Think of the people who are critical of it. Paul Ryan is out there criticizing Trump. Very, very critical. You think, he's very noble. Liz Cheney out there criticizing Trump. Very, very noble. Adam Kinzinger out there criticizing Trump. Very, very noble. You know what Paul Ryan, Liz Cheney, and Adam Kinzinger did? They voted for those tax cuts. Right? They operated as agents of the wealthy and powerful as well. And so even though they're very noisy now about how they disagree with Trump, and I share their view, I agree with them on that. I can't forget the fact that if Trump hadn't been there, if it had been somebody else, if it had been Scott Walker, or if it had been, Jeb Bush, somebody else from that 2016 race, they would have been trying to do those same tax cuts. And Paul Ryan and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger would have been voting the same way.
I mean, and so much of this is personal at this point. Speaking of which, which is what turns me off. I'm like, go into the principle, please, because But what did we see last week with this Biden impeachment inquiry? I mean, even Republicans walked away saying, "What was that?"
Exactly. Their jaws dropped because, I think that here's what happens in Congress. You have 435 members in the House of Representatives, and they divide up responsibilities. It's like any 435 people, right? Everybody's got, this is your area of work, and it's like in a big newsroom. Somebody has a beat. You cover this thing, you cover that thing. Not everybody does everything. Well, in Congress, in the House, there's a group of people, Jim Jordan and Comer and other people, who were Republicans given responsibility to kind of prepare an impeachment for Joe Biden, right? They're going to take Joe Biden down because they said he's so corrupt, and everybody's looking at Fox and they're looking at all these things. And so finally they get an order from Kevin McCarthy to launch an impeachment inquiry, to do a hearing. And the interesting thing about it is that they didn't ask for a vote of the House. Historically, that's what you always do. Mm-hmm. The House votes to launch an impeachment inquiry. Even Kevin McCarthy said that's the only way you can do it. And then suddenly McCarthy goes, oh, no, I guess I can just order it. Well, why did he do that? Because he didn't have the votes among Republicans. Even his fellow Republicans thought, this seems kind of dumb. And why did he do it at the point that he did? Because you had the government shutdown coming. He's got a big problem with Matt Gaetz. So he wants to look like, he's really taking on Biden. Now, Kevin McCarthy is not a sharp tack. He is not the most capable leader. In fact, he's an incredibly incompetent leader. And one assumes that Kevin McCarthy simply thought, okay, we got all these people who've been working for months or years talking about all the corruption around Biden. Let's launch this inquiry. They'll have a hearing, and boy, that's going to blow people's minds because all this evidence is going to come out. Hearing is gavelled in. They bring on a panel of experts. Usually when you have the initial panel of experts, they're the ones who tell you, what you're here for, why this matters. And first expert, Jonathan Turley, the great law professor, comes up. He says, well, I got to be honest, I don't see any impeachable offenses here so far. Another expert comes up, guy who's a financial analyst, looking at all the money and everything, says, I don't see any corruption here. I don't actually see anything wrong. Members of the panel start talking. Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin, a congressman, goes, well, there's a lot of smoke. Maybe no fire, but a lot of smoke. And suddenly what you realize is their witnesses are saying, well, we don't really see anything. We can't point to anything. Members of the panel are saying, well, I don't know. I'm not. And it was comic. It was like a Three Stooges episode, a gang that couldn't shoot straight. And there you had some of the sharpest Democrats in Congress, Jamie Raskin, former counsel for the Rainbow, the ranking Democrat on that committee. And Jamie Raskin just says, You look at this. They have nothing. They literally called us into this hearing, and they have nothing. If they had a smoking gun, even if they had a dripping water pistol, that's what Jamie Raskin said. Even if they had a dripping water pistol, they would have showed it to us, but they didn't have it. They don't have it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, same thing, points out all this. And, and what happened was you saw that many of these Republicans live in a bubble. They talk to themselves. They tell themselves what they think they know. And the fact is, there's nothing behind it. And so, to be honest, their impeachment inquiry on as regards Joe Biden actually kind of turned out good for Joe Biden, because it revealed that they don't have a lot of evidence against him personally. His son's a mess. There's no doubt of that, but they don't have a lot of evidence against Biden. And two, I think it drove another wedge into the Republicans. There are Republicans in Congress, you can like them or dislike them, agree with them or disagree with them, who still operate in, reality, right? They try to recognize, what's real and what isn't. And these Republicans are speaking up. They're saying, why are we doing this? And it's another place where you see Kevin McCarthy, who's had a really bad couple of weeks, isolated because he doesn't know how to lead. He doesn't know how to function in this very powerful position of speakership. And he keeps throwing bones to the extreme right, thinking that the extreme right in his caucus will be happy with the bones he throws them, not realizing that those bones just give them strength to be more energetic in their attacks on Kevin McCarthy.
They suck out the marrow and they get stronger.
They do. It's an ugly, ugly scene, man. I got to tell you. But I just want to emphasize this. At this point, the Republicans in Congress, in the House of Representatives, are in chaos, right? They're talking about shutting down the government. They didn't go there. They ended up, averting it. Now they're talking about throwing out McCarthy. They're going to have votes this week or some sort of, effort on that. And, they're doing this bogus impeachment that's going nowhere. And, you can, if you're just a partisan, you think, oh, that's great. They all look pretty horrible and blah, blah, blah. But if you step back and you're actually concerned about the American experiment, right, you got to worry, because this is going to be another 2 years, year and a half with this Congress, where they're not going to do anything. Nothing of value is going to come of it. All that they're doing is deconstructing whatever was good, not seeing things through. So they're not, doing the child tax credit. That didn't get extended. They're not, trying to address climate crisis. They're not trying to talk about these core issues that you've brought up, as regards home mortgages and things like that. They're just creating smoke and mirrors and hoping somehow that people will not look behind the screen. And it's a very bad thing for America. Now, I'm not just blaming Republicans. There's plenty of Democrats that can't get their act together and do the right thing either. But the bottom line is Republicans control the House of Representatives at this point, and they have rendered it a fully dysfunctional body.
We're talking with John Nichols from The Nation magazine, correspondent for The Nation magazine. You know what? I know Reverend Dr. Todd Geary and Attorney Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee are still on with us. They always want to hang out. They were supposed to go. They want to hang out when they know that you're coming. Well, let me put a bow on this, Reverend Dr. Geary, 30 seconds before I have John close us out.
Well, first of all, John, good to hear your voice. I mean, it's the game, right? When we talk about government of, for, and by the people, we never get real clarity on the definition of the people. We think it means everybody. It just means somebody. And unless everybody makes it more expansive so that it applies to them, we all going to get left behind. In the meantime, I'm grabbing my baseball mitt and I'm trying to go get a contract with the Cubs. So I appreciate it.
You can do that with them old creaky knees.
Can you chew gum? Can you chew gum?
And swing the bat at the same time? How about that?
Yeah.
Robert Patillo, 30 seconds. Is Robert still there? Well, Dwight McKee, 30 seconds. Okay, Robert, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just for
what exactly would have to happen for the American public to fully understand just the worst week ever for Republicans, where you're starting off the week with Donald Trump having a summary judgment against him as being a fraud. You follow that up with a Republican debate where they talk about invading Mexico and ending birthright citizenship. You follow that with a impeachment hearing where they're basically doing stand-up comedy by the end, making fun of them. You follow that by a government shutdown. You follow that by a motion to vacate. And then you end the week with Matt Gaetz being threatened with being expelled for Congress for having sex with teenage prostitutes. And then you follow that with Donald Trump in court the next Monday. Can we put this kind of in perspective, just how bad that week should be for any politician and any political party?
Dwight McKee, 30 seconds.
And in all of that, Donald Trump's ratings have gone up. Figure that out.
John, the last 90 seconds belong to you.
All I will tell you is that also in the last period of time, we saw Joe Biden, the president of the United States, go and join a picket line with UAW members out in Michigan. And for all the lies, all the absurdity, all the cruelty of our moment, the fact that a president of the United States chose to go out and stand with striking workers, that wasn't just the president doing that. That is a sign that the organized labor in this country is rising anew, that working class people are seeing through a lot of these lies, everything we've been talking about in this last hour. There is hope out there, but the hope is not in Washington. The hope is on those UAW picket lines across this country. And the bottom line is, as they make us laugh or cry in Washington, they make us cheer out on those picket lines. The UAW strike is expanding. It is a powerful, multiracial, multi-ethnic struggle for economic justice in this country.
And they are holding the line on their rights.
They are holding the line.
And your rights. This is about you, everybody. This is about you. I love you, John Nichols. Everybody get the book. It's okay to be mad about capitalism. He and Bernie Sanders have a New York Times bestseller on their hands. Let's continue to make it the top-selling book in the country. Robert Patillo, WAOK, every Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, Douglas Memorial Community Church. Give them your support. Dwight McKee, Dean of the Mount Alpha Redemption Project here in Chicago. Alex, thank you for a great show. Sending you all much love. I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Hey. Well, does anyone, Dwight, please don't say anything else about the Cubs, because I am completely messed up by that. I just want you to know that. You have slayed me today. That is so rich. But it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, all the sense in the world. Like how can a team be so pitiful? I'm like, what? 100 years? Don't give me that curse mess. This is crazy. But it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, and how do you continue to play for a team? How can you do it? I mean, but it's the nature of the game when you know that you've been gamed. And he was a Hall of Famer, and he's a legend today, even in spite of that foolishness that he had to live with the Cubs. Oh, Reverend Dr. Geary, what are your thoughts? Because we've heard a lot today.
Well, I think this notion of there's this adage that they teach you as young kids when you're competing, right? It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. And I used to be offended by that, right? Because winning and losing don't feel the same when you are actually in the competition. But when the competition is really secondary to the game that comes from just playing the game, then you don't care whether or not you win or lose. Your goal is to make a profit. That's the adage behind, I think, Dwight's story, but it's also the story of our politics. It does not matter. We get caught up in the party realities. What's the distinction between Democrat and Republican? For the oligarch level, it doesn't matter to them. Whoever gets there is going to have to come play to their agenda. They're going to get their interests and they're going to get to the profit. And so these things that amuse us who are really impacted by what kinds of decisions come out of our government, it is that we've got to create critical mass to change who's sitting in those seats. Otherwise, we continue to be trapped in an adage that makes no sense. Winning and losing do not feel the same. They don't mean the same thing. But if all we're doing is just hanging around to play the game while they go back and change the dynamics of the Adam Smith formula, right? Land and labor are the serious and major categories of the definition of wealth. Then the whole notion is, and you just described it, Santita, they're gaming the process to control the land. They're also suppressing the masses' wages, right? We can go back and have a whole conversation about federal minimum wage and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And if you got to make the money to be able to acquire the property, to be able to close the racial wealth gap, and to put yourself in a position to get favorable terms to be able to collect and borrow money, then this whole thing is a shell game. That's White's language. I think he's spot on. We getting hustled in the back of the bus for $5, and we're coming away with nothing to show for it. And if we don't get back to the serious work of taking back our republic, then we're going to be part of the new system of slavery, which is widespread, and it's going to entangle all of us, while those who sit at the top just make the money, and they just claim us on their taxes as a depreciation expense.
Well, what did they say? If you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. That's
You it, baby. You it.
Okay. Attorney Robert Patillo, your thoughts? Because it's just, I don't even know. There's just so much going on all day, every day. Robert, you still there? You might be on mute, but if not, Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
Donald Trump said, if you don't want me to play the game, then change the game. So don't blame me. I just play the game. Our problem is we don't understand how the game is played because we believe the propaganda about the game rather than the game itself. And so we don't know where to apply the pressure points and what laws need to be changed and how the laws work. Because for most of us, that's far beyond our level that we don't even understand what we're looking at. And so all that I try to do and all I think that we try to do is give them the rules and the tools of the game so that people will know how to apply the appropriate pressure points. Now, what I'm finding is many of them get upset with us for giving them the rules and the tools of the game and blame us. But again, I am just the weatherman. I am not the cloud. I'm just trying to tell you how this thing works so that you will understand how to organize against it.
And why the Cubs lose year after year after year. And Chaparral said, and the Bears too. I mean, because a lot of these sports franchises, they're vanity projects for the owners. This is extra money.
And you bet your money. Yeah. But you bet your money in good faith because you think the game is fair and don't understand why some teams win every year and some teams lose every year.
Every year.
I mean, it defies the laws of nature.
Well, my grandmother Gertrude said, if something is unbelievable, don't believe it.
Don't believe it.
She said, don't believe it.
And so you bet your hard-earned money thinking you can win, not understanding that even that game is rigged. The betting game is rigged.
Because the house
that
always
is actuarial.
Because the house always
wins. That's always wins. That's actuarial, y'all. That's actuarial. And so we living we live in the bubble. We don't really understand what we're looking at. And so once you understand that, then you understand why P.T. Bottom said, hey, y'all, just wait, just be patient. There's a sucker born every minute. And if you didn't find one now, just give it another minute. Give it another minute. Another sucker will be born.
Oh, my word. Oh, well, you know what? I'm really glad you all stuck around today. I just wanted I really want us to have information because information is not just power, but it's empowering if you use it properly. I don't want you to get caught up in the culture of personality. That's part of what got us here. We're caught up in personality. So we don't celebrate achievement. We celebrate people who are in our faces. They don't bring us the presence of their gifts. They're just present in our faces. And I think we need to watch that. And so when you look at these trials, and there is so much, a lot of people very angry with Donald Trump. I hope that you at least would look at the system that he has taken advantage of. That so many others do. How many people do you know can get on? They talk and walk their way onto the Forbes 400 list. Because you know who's not on the Forbes 400 list, although they're not American? The Queen and now King Charles, the largest landowners on earth. They're not on that list. How is it they don't get on the list? And if you tried to put them on the list, they shut down that magazine because the most wealthy people in the world don't want you to know that they have a dime. Warren Buffett's been driving the same car for like half a century, has been living in the same house 60 or 70 years. Come on, y'all. You need to understand the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. The wealthiest person on earth, you dare not say it. But the Irish know it because they're fighting with the British right now because they pay more to the British than the Haitians pay to the French. That's why they're mad as hell. We need to understand how this game is played. The 53 or 54 countries in the Commonwealth, 94, 95% of them are black and brown and Indian. The black, the brown people. That's how they make their money. But that is not going to be, that's not a Forbes story. No. This is the story. And we're supposed to get angry with these folks. No, you need to understand how this game is played. That's why I keep trying to bring it to you. I want you to look at the game. Look at the game. Look at the game.
And Forbes made their money in the drug trade. They were part of the opium wars. I mean, come on, y'all. Study to show yourself approved. The Forbes made their money in the drug trade.
I mean, and these are people who walk around and they're superior to all of us. And then, your local drug dealer, you're not supposed to have any respect for him. No, Well, that's what these people have done. Donald Trump's forebears had brothels out west. Please. I'm not mad at anybody. But come on, y'all. Really? I'm simply just saying. And what did Hannah just said? STUDY. Study. I hear you. And Chappelle is going at it with everybody today. I mean, boy, let me go back a little bit so we can see where Karen and Chappelle, y'all tickle me. You really, really do. Daryl says, let God be our main advocate and problem solver. Man can fail, but God never fails. I hear you. If we let God hold our hand, he will lead us in the right direction, in positive direction. I hear you. God has the power. And again, there's a ruler over everybody. Oh, if we only believe that. But I hear you. And Carolyn Ruff says, I love Bernie Sanders. Me too. Me too. Chappelle Wells says, with respect to the Cubs, she said, same thing with the Bears, Dwight. Oh, and Daryl said, acknowledge God in all of our ways. Amen to that. And then Osa said, and Karen acknowledged that we acknowledge that, Biden and the Biden-Harris administration have been really seeking to look at this racial bias in home appraisals. Absolutely. I mean, they're formally doing that, everybody. Chappelle Wells Osa wrote, you are truly lost and don't understand basic policies. Go and vote for Trump, and you are the one who will be crying. Low information voters spreading baseless information is the reason your rights and history is being taken away by the Republican Party. Now, her point was, yeah, I hear you, and praise Trump, praise Biden if you want to, but sign these executive orders on voting rights and justice and policing. And that was his response. And so Flora says healthcare workers are picketing. And Karen responded to Chappelle Wells. I actually agreed with Santita, and you replied to me again. So let's not reply to each other because I will not be attacked. Good day. You all don't attack each other, but talk with one another. That's what this is for. Barbara says, have a great day, everyone. Please stay safe. And, and on it goes. Osa says, whoa, Chappelle, I guess you taking in on incoming fire. Chaparral Wells, you are, well, no, I read that. You are lost. Okay. Laura says, great rising, sending you much love. Osa says, these folks will soon blame Democrats for the speaker's removal. No, but he's going to have to kind of deal with the Democrats if he wants to stay in. That much is clear. And that's going to change the game, absolutely, if he's able to do that. Flores says the fans keep supporting the Bears and the Cubs. They haven't won since the refrigerator Perry did the hustle. And don't you remember after they won the Super Bowl, they completely broke up the team? You remember that, Flora? I was done with the Bears. And Mike Ditka would not give, and I've told Connie Payton, Walter Payton's widow, who's a dear friend of mine. I said, I am done with the Bears. And she said, girl, don't do that, because Connie is really, really sweet. I said, they would not give your husband the ball just to carry it over and get a touchdown at that Super Bowl. I said, I was done with them. Done. I said, here, he carried this sorry team on his back his whole career, and you can't figure out a touchdown for Walter Payton. All this unluckiness, they earned it. How about that? Yeah, sorry. This is just
and
me.
then they gave him a statue, but they wouldn't sell him a team.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
He was about a St. Louis team, but they ambushed him trying to buy a team.
So how am I supposed to respect that? How am I supposed to respect that? You all think that George Hallis just bought Gale Sayers a house because he was feeling fatherly toward him. No, it was a restricted neighborhood. He couldn't buy a house. As the top player in football, he and Jim Brown were the top running backs in all of football. He could not buy a house in our neighborhood. My family ended up moving into that neighborhood like 2 or 3 years later. He couldn't buy a house then. You remember that, Dwight?
Yeah, 70th and Constance.
Well, thanks for letting everybody know what my parents are, but everybody knows anyway. So
No, I'm talking about Gail. I'm talking about what Gail lived.
I know. I just
Gail lived on 70th and Constance.
I know, but I just said this a couple blocks up from my parents. Never mind. Just keep on going. But but we would go up there too, because we all grew up with his kids. With Gail Lynn and Scotty and Timmy, and it was like, whoa. It was when I first read his book, I Am Third, his memoir. I said, oh wow, George Hallis bought him the house. My father said, no, baby, there's more to that story. And then when I realized, I said, wait a minute, a restricted community, because I'm living in our house, that restricted community. I know about segregation and all of that, but it didn't quite resonate with me as much. I'm like, wait a minute, there were no black, because I've got a black neighbor across the street, next door, on one side anyway. Whew, it's a lot, y'all. I just want you to understand the game, Reverend Yuri. I want people to understand the game. So we move so that we can become more disciplined in our fight, because we've made these fights so personal. We're not looking at the principle that should be guiding the struggle. So Reverend Dr. Yuri, because I think John had to leave at 8:00. That's why I have not referenced John. But Reverend Dr. Yuri, I know you have to go. Your thoughts?
Well, the game, right? Part of this takes us back to why civics is so important. Because I think we make fatal assumptions about words. One of the first things they tell you in law school is words have meaning. When the preamble to the Constitution says, we the people of the United States, people is not just a question of existence. It is a legal term. It carries with it certain standing in certain realms, right? And at that time, it was largely the elite landowning. When they say we're protecting this for ourselves and our posterity, they didn't mean everybody. We now apply it to everybody, but that's not what it was meant to be. And the game, when Big Brother Dwight talks about the game hasn't changed. Monopoly boards have changed their appearance several times. They've not changed the rules once. And so we're not going to learn these rules so that, one, we can learn how to play the game, but then put people in place to be able to make the rules more fair, like Ron Jackson often tells us, right? If the rules are clear, the referees are fair, the score is transparent, and the field is level, then we can win. When the deck is already stacked before we even get into the arena, it makes it hard for us to address the things that make for the ability to just live with a sense of human dignity and human decency. And so that's why the election is important. That's why voting up and down the ballot is critical. That's why paying attention to who's asking you for their votes, needing to come with an agenda. Just think of it this way. You don't go into a restaurant you've never visited before and just start ordering stuff out of the blue. You want to see the menu. Show me the menu of what you're trying to sell me before I order something that I can't get. That's the whole point that we're trying to have in this conversation, because the game is what the game is until we get the game changed. Until then, we got to master it and play to win, not just play to say we were here. It does matter whether you win or lose, but it also matters how you play the game. They're not mutually exclusive.
That's right, and you need to understand how what the rules are and how they're enforced and whom they're enforced for and against. All of that we need to know. I'm noticing this chat has gotten quite peppery today, Dwight. Let me read a little bit of this before I have you give us some closing thoughts. Okay, Carolyn said she loves Bernie Sanders. Healthcare workers, Flora says, are picketing absolutely. But let me come down just a little bit, because you, Chaparral, and Osa and Karen and others have really been into it today. And I want you all to disagree. I think that's healthy, but let's not be disagreeable and let's not call each other names. We can call each other out, but don't call each other names. Osa said, Chaparral, you are truly lost and don't understand basic policies. Go vote for Trump, and you are the one who will be crying. Low information voters spreading baseless information is the reason your rights and history is being taken away by the Republican Party. And these folks will soon blame the Democrats for the speaker's removal. And Chaparral, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. I wanted to get this. Flora says the fans keep supporting the Bears and the Cubs. They haven't won since the Refrigerator Perry did the hustle. Absolutely. And the shuffling crew. Remember that? Let me see. Robert Williams. Ooh, he jumped in it. He said, Osa, go bite yourself, Pilgrim. Ouch. Come on, you all. Let's be nicer to each other. Osa said, first portion, Robert Williams, your ignorant soul has started a game. Don't call each other ignorant. Don't do this. Don't call this name calling. Come on, y'all. This is not worth it. This is not what we're supposed to be doing here. It's not what we're supposed to be doing. Let's not do it this way. If you disagree, y'all, feel free, but let's not be unkind to each other. Chaparral said, Osa, I was waiting on you to show up. I've been watching the timeline, and I've deduced that you and Karen Lene are Democratic trolls and bots. Y'all are one and the same. That's why you never call in and only respond in the chat. You're not real. And D-Ray said, and if Donald Trump won 2024 USA presidency, all volcanoes will erupt in the United States. Chaparral continued, Osa, we peeped your game, bruh. Poof, be gone. Oh, Chaparral. Wow, they're going for it today, but I want you all to disagree without being disagreeable. Hannah says STUDY in response to what you said, Dwight. Karen said, Chaparral, I'm not a troll. Sorry, this is not my computer, you all, so I'm having to do this using a mouse, and I'm accustomed to the touchscreen now. Karen said, I'm not a troll, Chaparral, just concerned and truly informed. You attacked me when I agreed with Santita. Let's not respond to each other. Good day. You don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me all day long. I'm okay, and that's why I do that's why I work so hard to be informed, so I can be ready for the disagreement, and I'm open to being corrected when I'm wrong, because I'm not 100%. I'm just, I'm absolutely not that. And then Chaparral's response was, Karen, you are a bot, and it's obvious. Call in. Let's hear your computer-generated voice. Ouch. Osa continued. Wait a minute. Boy, y'all went on each other. Robert Williams, I truly feel okay. No, that's y'all keep on going, please, everybody. Flora remembers, that's right. Walter retired because he figured out the game. We retired, he'd been beaten up. And remember, he died just a few short years later. Remember that? And Chaparral is calling out Osa. She wants to hear your human voice. And I want to hear your voices because I think that you'll be able to communicate more effectively if you let us hear what you're saying. And engagement is important too. So, I mean, the keyboard is important, Flora, the power of the keyboard and the pen, you're right. But I think it's important for us to talk with one another, not past one another. I mean, because with the pen and the keyboard, you're able to say what you're going to say and just walk away. That's not real life. That's not real life. I was telling, one of my brothers who goes back and forth on texting. I mean, but they're younger than I am, so they do that. I said, look, well, don't. If you want to talk to your big sister, call me, please, because all this back and forth, you miss that. There are too many nuances that you miss while I'm trying to respond to you. I don't have time for that. If you want to talk to me, call me, and that's it. And that's why I'm done with that. So everybody, let's start calling in too. And Bob Smith said, "Go West, vote West." All right, he heard you, Dwight. And so everybody, let's not be unkind to each other. You can disagree without being disagreeable, and you don't have to agree with me. You really don't. Dwight McKee, oh, what a day we've had today. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't want this to become animosity. I want us to try to learn and grow from each other, not attack each other, because I think everybody has, for the most part, pure motives.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they have different understandings, and that's why you have a public marketplace, so that you can examine and process ideas. And I think the ideas and truth should prevail in all of it. So I don't think anybody take any of it personally. I think we should just, look to see what the different propositions are, and then to research them for ourselves and see if we can come with our own conclusions. I think you make a great point, Santita, when you say everybody on the Forbes list is only except the Queen and Charles and the folk that got the real money and the Rothschilds and folk that have the real money in this society. And they make a point not to get on there because the real power and the real money is in the dark. And if you really want to understand that, it's not going to be on the front page of the paper. You have to research this. So please be civil to each other and to support each other. And we all should try to grow together.
Amen to that. Because we all need each other. That's why we're all here together. I mean, even with people who strenuously disagree with the opinions, with the thoughts that are voiced here, I can't quarrel with the facts. Maybe the interpretation of them, sure, but not the facts. That's why this is not a spin-free zone. Well, it is a spin-free zone, but more than that, it's a fact. It is not a fact-free zone. We go on the facts here, which is why I bring all this information to you. And yes, and I will admit my perspective is a little bit different because I want you to have something different. And my life experiences have brought me here. So I'm going to look at things a little bit differently because I've had to live through on the other side of the looking glass, if you will. And so I just try to share these things with you. As my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, said when he was running for president, Lord, when he was running for Congress, he said, I've been in the room. So when he sits with other congressmen and asks, has anyone talked to Putin? And they all drop their forks. Like, what is it? Wait. I do know that when the Palestinians and the Israelis were not talking, they were talking to each other with just back channel talk. That's how that goes, everybody. Wink, nod. That's what happens. You're not going to bomb your way out of the Ukrainian conflict. You're going to negotiate your way out of it. That's how that happens. And we're not going to bomb each other to bits on this timeline. We're going to have to talk to each other and understand each other's life experiences and perspectives that shape the opinions that we have. So Dwight is absolutely right, calling for peace and respect. Appreciate everybody's perspective. We are too quick to cancel one another now. That is the most immature thing you can do. and to dismiss people. That's the most immature thing you can do. Don't do that. Don't dismiss people. Listen to what they say. And then if you disagree, you disagree. But dismissing people, that's not right. Calling people names, saying that they're ignorant, you don't know what people know. You know what people tell you. You don't know what they know. Ever. Ever. You never know what's going on in someone's head. You never know that. So please, the biggest mistake you can make is thinking that you're the smartest person in the room. That's a huge mistake. Dwight, have we not seen that?
All our lives.
Oh, I mean, one of the things that Clinton and Reverend Jackson have used to their advantage are these Southern drawls. Now, mind you, as Southern men, they're not going to lose their accents. That's just something that they're not going to do. But everybody assumes that they're a little slower than they are, a little less bright. I had a guy who was one of the most distinguished academicians in the world, particularly in the theological space. After he met Reverend, and I've seen this with academics all the time, they all are shocked that Reverend Jackson is actually a brilliant guy. And he said, he met him. I said, well, as he and I got to know each other, I said, I'd love for you to meet Reverend, and talk with him because I think that he could benefit from you. You could benefit from him. So they met Dwight, and he called me shocked and surprised. He said, Reverend he's really bright. He's actually a brilliant man. I didn't know he's actually trained. I said, so you didn't know that he had a full scholarship to go to the University of Chicago to get a master's in divinity. You really think someone has hung in this space at this level, being untrained and being unread? Are you for real? But because he didn't shove his degrees in your face, and because he used the degrees, he didn't let the degrees use him. Got to stop it. I don't know a mind more brilliant than Dwight. I don't. And I don't need Harvard or Oxford or anyone or Morehouse or Howard to tell me that. I just know it. And you do too. That's why you can't wait to hear what he has to say. Let's start respecting each other. Let's just start respecting each other. And with respect to the vote, stop writing yourself off. And when I say that, vote your hopes, not your fears. You continue to say that Cornel West cannot win, that Robert Kennedy cannot win. They cannot win because you won't vote for them, because you refuse to embrace the possibility that they could win and that you could actually have a president that you want. Or Cook County Commissioner, or County Commissioner, or Harris County Commissioner. You refuse to believe that the kingdom of heaven can be made real on earth. The Lord's Prayer is real, everybody. It's real, but you have to be the believer. God's waiting on us to come through. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it already has been done in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Your needs have already been met. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive people and move on. Lead us not into temptation. We all have the mess in us. Deliver us from evil. We all got that in us. Thine is the kingdom, not mine. Thine. God is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. We've got to change our thinking so we can make this the heavenly realm. We can do it. Our pastor, Dwight McKee said, I've never seen God make a mouth he couldn't feed. There's enough food on this earth for everybody to be fed and satiated. I've never seen God have a vision without making provision. You are God's vision. And the way has already been made for you. But you have some greedy people who are standing in your way, and you need to stand up and fight. Because you deserve education. You deserve great health care. You deserve decent housing. You deserve the right. You have a right to the tree of life. But you got to believe it. I can't believe that for you. So when we talk about Trump, and some of you say, oh, you're just making arguments for Trump. No, we're trying to let you know, don't hate the player, hate the game. This is a game. And we're being gamed. The only people who have assigned value are wage workers. And they're fighting every day because the wages that they've been assigned are off. But the very wealthy, That wealth floats and it ain't even real. They just write it down on a piece of paper. And you know, when Trump finds out that the Fortune 400 list is coming out and they have his wealth at 400, at 400 million or 2 billion, he's like, oh, no, call them. Get them on the phone. I'm worth 10 billion. And he talks to them, and then he gets his wealth boosted so he can get a greater line of credit at the bank. But you can't even buy a car, and you're working every day.
And a lower interest rate. Now, here's how that works, Santita. So he gets more. He can borrow more money. He gets a lower interest rate, but he's borrowing your money. And then he better take your money and buys a deflated piece of property, inflates that, and go and borrow more money and buy more property. And the property he buys is the property that you pay the rent in.
And doesn't have to pay it back.
We really.
And Dwight, he doesn't have to pay it back.
Oh, God. Mm-hmm. And so we end up doing this, funding their wealth at our expense. Again, because we don't understand how the game is played, and we are the game.
That's all we're trying to say. That's all we're trying to say. You don't even realize so many of us are so busy trying to protect the protected class. That's why I told you every indictment is political. There's so many people who are protected. Oh, man. How is it that civil rights martyrs' children, you never see them again? But all the thieves and the liars and the people who are corrupt, their children run the world, continue to run the world. How does that work? You need to think about that. Freedom fighters, we don't see their children anymore. We don't see them second generation. And if we do, Rajiv Gandhi got killed. Did he not, Dwight? Okay.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's what we do. Change your thinking, everybody. Facts. Change your thinking. Change your mind. You can have the world that we are supposed to have, which is the kingdom of heaven. It's supposed to be realized right here. But you got to change your thinking. You got to change your thinking, and you got to change your ways. God never made a mouth God could not feed. If people are hungry today, it is because you have greedy people who are pulling food out of their mouths, and that is a grievous sin, and the world's going to pay for it, and you should. That what you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. You deny some child, some adult, male or female, trans, anybody. You deny them the basics in life, shame on you, and you're going to go straight to hell. Yes, you will. Because you are hurting God's child. You're hurting God's children. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Ought to be ashamed of yourself. God's not going to bless you. God's not going to bless us. And God's not going to bless us if you're going to let Jesus carry the cross alone. What? And all the world go free? Come on, y'all. Let's grow up. Grow up. Lift that cross and let's tote it up this hill and let's get it. Because we had the power to stop the crucifixion. We could have done that too. Stop it. And stop beating up people who are fighting for you and defending people who barely try to help you or who are actively trying to hurt you. So, Dwight, you want to say anything else before we go?
No, I think not. I was just thinking about the auto workers real quickly, though, is how the car companies took their money, got themselves out of debt, started making a lot of money, took that money and ran with it, and left the auto workers clean and dry. And so, and now they're scratching their head saying, but we need this money so we can reinvest in the technology that's going to put you all out of business. Understand the game, y'all.
That's what this fight is about. But you want to rely on the corporate media who are on their side. Even Trump, when he went up to the auto workers, he went to a non-union shop to have his rally. But did the corporate media talk about that? No. Oh, God. Oh. Come on. No. But did Biden use that as a talking point? Did the Democrats do that? But y'all get mad with me. No. Then I got to jump through all these hoops to try to get these jokers on this show. No. No, 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 no. Robert said, you got folk like Bill Gates that want us to eat crap from a laboratory. Yep. But they can only do it if you allow them to get away with it. On the day that we decide that we want things to be different, the New Deal was born out of Americans' unrest. Americans were marching on Washington. They were sitting in on Washington. Americans were about to tear this country apart because they were starving. Is that not right, Dwight?
That's correct.
You had socialists, you had communists who were running for office. I mean, this was a very active time in history, and it wasn't just during the Great Depression. This is from the post-industrial revolution through the Great Depression. Oh my gosh, Americans had it. Had it. Think about that, everybody. Think about that. So I love you, everybody. Dwight, love you. Love you, Reverend Dr. Yuri. Love you, Robert Patillo. Love you, John Nichols. Excuse me, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Dr. Reverend Stephen Thurston and Alex Castaneda. Thank you so much for a great show. I thank all of you, Osa and Chaparral and Karen and everybody. Let's respect each other. Let's love each other. We don't need to fight one another. We need to fight for one another. You can fight with one another. That's cool, but hug it out after it's over. Hug it out. Hug it out. Hug it out. Ain't nothing wrong with a good fight. But there is something wrong when you stay angry. Something's not right about that. So I love you, Angela. I love all of you. I love you, Flora. I love you, Robert. I love you, Daryl. And so, and Daryl said, I'm not vote splitting to help Trump. I hear you. I hear you. But your bigger problem is not a president. It is the policies that they will either enact or refuse to subvert. So think about that too. It's not about this, less about the person, because you could get anyone in the office and make them bend to your will. Know that. Know that. So love you, Dwight. Love y'all. I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. You all make it all worthwhile. You really, really do. I love getting up to be with you first thing in the morning. What a gift all of you are. Really. You're just gifts. Everybody like and share the show. Like and share the show. Like and share, like and share, like and share, like and share. Love you, love you, love you. So, and let's love each other. We don't have to like each other all the time. We don't have to agree. But when you love covers everything. Let's be kind to each other. Hug it out. Hug it out. Hug it out. Everybody, hug it out. Hug it out. Y'all know Chaparral is peppery. You know Osa's peppery. You know Karen is going to be in the mix. Okay, good. Get in the mix. But y'all, the three of you take the lead on being kind to people. Then if you call someone out or call someone out of, don't call anyone out of their name. Please don't do that. I don't like that here. But don't call people ignorant. You don't know what they know. And if someone is ignorant, then inform them. Okay? Be kind. Share. Love. Let's move forward. I love you, love you, love you. I'm out of here, everybody. So let's do this. Have an awesome day, Miss South Carolina Hannah. Sending you all so much love. Everybody like and share the show. I think it was a good one. Love you.